vacation since COVID started. They've all kind of stacked up. So I figured as long as I was leaving the country and you weren't going to see this until after I was on the other side of the international date line, now would be a good time to talk about American politics and tell you who's going to win the next presidential election. Now, the person to understand if you want to see how this election is going to play out is Bernie Sanders. Because I think most people in America agree that he's a bit cuckoo and his ideas are crazy. And if you sit down and actually force, and if you want to see the other side of the international until after I was on the other side of the international date line, now would be a good time to talk about American politics and tell you who's going to win the next presidential election. Now, the person to understand if you want to see how this election is going to play out is Bernie Sanders. Because I think most people in America agree that he's a bit cuckoo and his ideas are crazy. And if you sit down and actually force him to go through the math, as some people have done, he will admit that the math doesn't make sense. And he'll just raise taxes until it does. And if that raises the marginal tax rate to the point that it destroys everything, he has no problem with that. And people who support Bernie Sanders, once you walk them through that, will come to the same general realization. But they will not change their minds because they are committed to the cause. Put another way, Bernie Sanders is not a political leader. He's a religious leader. And he has a cult following as a result. And so does Donald Trump. Now, what that means is somewhere between 1/4 and 1/3 of people who self-identify as Republicans don't care what Trump does or what he says. I mean, hell, he could live stream the abortion of his trans lover, and they would still support him, which means that if only 3 other people run against him for the Republican nomination, he's going to win. The way the Republican Party works when it comes to delegates is in most of the races, as long as you get one more vote than whoever comes in second place, you walk away with every single delegate. So it's really easy for someone to come in from the outside, just like Donald Trump did, because by most metrics, he's not a conservative in the American sense, certainly not the Republican sense, but he was able to mobilize a group of people who had been left to the outside, the populists, and has catapulted not just to the presidency, but to control the Republican Party as a result. So in the environment that we're in now, since we already have another 3 people who have declared for the presidency, it doesn't matter if someone like Florida Governor DeSantis runs at this point. The vote is already sufficiently split that Donald Trump will walk away with the Republican nomination. That's pretty much hardwired in at this point. So that's the Republicans. Let's talk about the Democrats. The Democrats select their candidates a little bit differently. They don't have that winner-take-all mentality when it comes to the delegates, so if you get a number of strong candidates, they were going to break up the delegate count among them, and it's going to come down to the convention. And at the convention, there are a significant number of what they call superdelegates, which are people who are not representative of the primary or the caucus system, but instead represent kind of the party's institution, which are primarily centrists. And the superdelegates came into play in the last presidential cycle, when for a brief, shining, terrifying moment, it looked like Bernie Sanders might actually get the Democratic nominee. And since most centrist and center-left Democrats were like, oh, that would be disastrous by any number of manners, they all rallied together and used the party apparatus to make sure that Bernie did not get the nomination. And as a result, Biden was able to squeak through and then ultimately ran for president and ultimately gained the White House. Now, the centrists and the center-left within the Democratic coalition have made the decision already that they're not going through that again. And so if Bernie, or more likely when Bernie, decides to once again run for president, the centrists will swing into action to make sure he gets nipped in the bud as quickly as possible. In addition, the Democrats have always had a problem, I shouldn't say always, the Democrats in the last 25 years have had a problem that it's really hard for them to bring in fresh blood because you've got these charismatic people at the top who are politically and maybe even economically powerful who kind of suck all the oxygen out of the room and make it very difficult for young up-and-comers to make it into the system. Republicans
Your strategy has already determined the outcome. Now we observe. I understand a success such as that counts for much in your mortal society.
I'll do what I can.
I have developed an illogical interest in your success. Continue for further analysis. I understand a success such as that counts for much in your mortal society.
Need a drink?
You may have 1 gold. I have no need for mortal tokens of value. I see only positive outcomes occurring as a result of that decision.
This one is mine! I'll do what I can.
Last warning.
Let's occur.
There is much that this ally will do for you if you let it. Good. Let them witness your success. I understand a success such as that counts for much in your mortal society.
Colorful destruction!
You are operating at optimal performance. I've observed much in my existence, but few things are as full of spirit as these battlegrounds.
I'm feeling punchy!
Your strategy has already determined the outcome. Now we observe. Know that others also failed in their efforts.
For the Dark Lady.
This shop, like the universe, is an ever-expanding idea. Commencing battle sequence. but others also failed in their efforts. Fate is merely another form of data. You were fated to make this choice. You may have 1 gold. I have no need for mortal tokens of value.
I'm feeling punchy!
I have calculated that an equitable rate for this transaction is precisely 1 gold. Your strategy has already determined the outcome. Now we observe. Your victory was inevitable. You should be proud.
Are you on the guest list?
By my calculations, this minion will be more effective than most.
You're pushing your luck, little friend.
I have calculated that an equitable rate for this transaction is precisely 1 gold. It holds only a small amount of power, but it will be a useful tool nonetheless. Your strategy has already determined the outcome. Now we observe. should be proud. You may have 1 gold. I have no need for mortal tokens of value. I have assessed all possible options and deem this to be a well-earned recruit. I have calculated that an equitable rate for this transaction is precisely 1 gold.
You're pushing your luck, little Finn.
I have calculated that an equitable rate for this transaction is precisely 1 gold.
For justice!
Last warning.
There is much that this ally will do for you if you let it. I have calculated that an equitable rate for this transaction is precisely 1 gold. I have seen a path where you recover from this. Outcome of these battles, I am certain that you will find them exhilarating. You may have 1 gold. I have no need for mortal tokens of value. I have calculated that an equitable rate for this transaction is precisely 1 gold. This cannot be done alone. It would be wise to accept aid from these minions. Commencing battle sequence. I understand a success such as that counts for much in your mortal society. I sense that this action will not be one you regret. This minion has many achievements in its future, with you as its leader.
Your wish is my decision.
Move along, chump.
Would you care for a spot of tea?
Waiting to recruit allies is rarely the optimal strategy. Mortals are curiously obsessed with competitions, but it seems you are skilled at this one.